So today I have a fork of a patch that I made probably about a year ago called Dissolve. And what Dissolve was, and what this is a little self-contained synthesizer that you play up here. And it goes into a Cosmos style offset delay and is just sort of a little self-contained patch for creating soundscapes and that sort of thing. The original version used a variation on a pinged filter design, and Dissolve PWM, this patch, uh, uses you'll never guess pulse width modulation, a square wave that's filtered and pulse width modulated. So I done a long live stream on the original patch, and this is a fork of it. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on the controls. I'm just going to quickly go over them, and then I'll play something and we'll hear what it sounds like. So on this side are the delay controls. We have a delay time, and then the right delay offset. So there are two delays and they're offset from one another, so you can get phasing things. Um, we have feedback for the Cosmos style delay. You want really high feedback because the idea here is to let these echoes phase off of one another, and then with this next control, you set how much they get fed into one another's signal paths. So as they phase and blur and do all of these sorts of things, you get sort of really big soundscapes. So blur sets the amount. At 0%, the delays will continue to be out of phase. At 100%, they'll ping pong back and forth. And at points in between, you get these sort of cross feedback things. That's really sort of the heart of this style of a dual delay. Um, Drift is sort of the randomized panning that both of those delays can experience. So it sort of sets the range of that panning. Um, Smear is a like a low level modulation. It's used in a lot of um, reverbs. It's sort of a randomized sine wave that keeps the frequencies from building up too much in the regeneration, so that it doesn't just become like a single tone that overshadows everything. And warble is sort of a tape style modulation. In small amounts, it just sort of adds a vibe to things. It can get pretty crazy if you crank it up. Um, and then mix is the mix between the synth, or you can also use external gear, or you can use both of them in conjunction, and then the delay path. Um, then this button will start recording. We'll start feeding audio into the delay network. And those are the delay controls. These are the synth controls. We have an amp attack, an amp decay, and those are up to 10 seconds each. These are triggered. Um, so what that means is that, it really depends on the setting of the envelope before you trigger it. How long you press or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be triggered to that amount, which is a limitation, but also kind of freeing in a certain way because you focus, I think, more on tonality. And I'll I'll provide my own defense for this decision. Then we have a filter frequency, filter resonance. I'll say the notes are key track to the filter at 50%. That's sort of to keep the high notes from becoming sort of screechy. It adds a vibe to things and keeps things a little bit. It's not so dark as to not be filter tracked at all, and it's not so bright as to be like too much. Resonance And then the envelope can be directed, also, the amp envelope can be directed to the filter. And then we have a control for the PWM amount. And then on the second page, we have two additional controls. Suppress regeneration allows new audio coming into the delay network to suppress old audio and sort of make a place for it, keep things from becoming too muddled. And then we have the LFO used for the PWM. This is set to a triangle by default, but you can set it to whatever you want and change its rate here. So with that said, I'm just going to create something that probably, hopefully, sounds pretty cool. I've got the delay set to a pretty high amount. You already heard the synth sound that I'm going to start with. I may actually bring the envelope, the filter envelope, down a little bit. And I'm just going to create something and maybe demonstrate how easy it is to get something out of this. I'll say, generally, I'm going to use a sound similar to what I started out with, this swelling sound. And I've got the warble set to a medium-high amount because I think you'll hear how vibey it kind of gets with that. But as I go on, at some point I'll probably use this because it's one of my favorite sounds this synth can make, which is taking all the decay off, so we just have an amp envelope, and when you'll hear that it has this sort of reverse delay sound, particularly when you layer it on to other sounds. So I'll probably do some of that. I might do some other stuff, who knows, sort of the fun of this. But anyhow, that's the patch. I'll get into the performance. I'll just say, as I've been trying to say, if you like this patch, please take a moment to like it on Patch Storage, or if you like anybody else's patches, it's really appreciated. And with that, we'll do some stuff.